Well, as the fair dingham footy season just gets closer and closer and closer, and we've got plenty to talk about and what's happened in the pre-season, this is the time for the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour for this week. I'm Sergio Paradise, he's Titus O'Reilly, and remember, we can fit, stain and deliver.
This is our new business opportunity.
I think so. I don't know whether I've heard that somewhere before, but it just sort of rang a bell.
Thought you'd gone and got some sponsorship on the side.
I just had to go to Bunnings yesterday and it just sort of stuck in my head.
You went for the sausages, but actually went in this time.
Yeah, went for the snags and stayed for the slogan, basically.
Want to thank everyone up front who became a sponsor in the last week. We launched...
subscribers, it's great.
Yeah, well, supporters, yeah. People can become a supporter and keep us going, and it has kept us disciplined in doing the podcast regularly now.
Well, that is true.
Because we feel like we'd be ripping people off if we don't.
Despite the efforts we put into making this sound as amateurish as possible, and I think we succeed in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does actually cost real money to do this. So our subscriber base, which is smallish but growing at a rate of knots, is fantastic.
So thank you to our supporters, all the people who have become supporters of basically helping to not only make the podcast work, but all the stuff I write. I'm going to try and keep it all outside of basically paywalls. And so everyone who ever has got on Facebook, which is a lot of people, whenever anything was behind a paywall and complained to me about it, here's your chance to help.
To get out from behind.
So thank you, everyone. And if you want to become a supporter, I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's also at TitusO'Reilly.com. You can go there and become a supporter, and there's different levels. And by doing it, you can get, depending if you become a gold, you get a T-shirt.
Yeah, a T-shirt, and there'll be
a mug if you become a silver, and bronze you get undying love.
Yes, you get our great support, in a visual and audio sense. But also, as time goes by, there will be other added bonuses thrown into the mix for subscribers and supporters.
I got asked again today, are we coming to Adelaide for a show?
We'd dearly love to go.
Your visa's been knocked back. But no, we're actually sitting down and writing a show as we speak, so we will hopefully take that around as much of Australia as will have us.
Yeah, and when we do go to Adelaide, I think I'll walk on stage wearing an NFL helmet and more padding than Tom Brady. Actually,
do you remember in the Blues Brothers where they have the chicken wire and they play at the country and western bar, and people are throwing glass at them,
throwing bottles?
We're going to need that for just your side of the show,
just for my bit. Yeah,
I love Adelaide, but you. Because I like Queen's Pace and I like the Central Market.
Yeah,
I like Coopers.
I've only been to
Hague's. A lot of good. Actually, there's a lot of good stuff out of Adelaide.
Out of Adelaide, I do like the
chocolates alone.
The Barossa Valley goes very nicely.
Oh, of course.
I've only been to Adelaide once, and I'm happy.
You've only been once.
Yeah, once.
So your whole thing is based off of pretty small sample size.
Oh yeah, well, that'd be. Look, I base it on that one weekend in Adelaide, which spent Friday night and Saturday night and Sunday night. Now, come to think of it, drunk because it was there for the Grand Prix.
Oh, how could you not? Oh, that was back in.
That was back in the Grand Prix.
So been Adelaide
decades
ago. so people in Adelaide, when we come, you've got to show Serge a good time.
Well, last I was there, Rundle Mall was still a dirt track. That's how long ago it was.
Did it have the pigs in the Rundle Mall and the mall's balls and all those sort of things? No, it's all happening there now.
But we
got everything.
We will go to that. We do promise we will go to that strip joint that Shannon Knoll couldn't get into.
Just to not get in.
Yeah, whatever it's called, we'll be there.
I'm going to say, don't you know who I am? They'll go, no, but we said you can come in. And I'll just keep saying, this is outrageous. I'll just create a scene anyway. Now, we had the first pre-season games for the men's now on the weekend. So I ended up watching a lot of the pre-season games in the JLT Series.
Yep.
I ended up watching a lot of the women's AFL again, and I ended up watching some of the netball too, because now you can watch Collingwood lose in a couple of sports in the one day. It's terrific.
Across three different disciplines.
I watched them playing the netball, and I'm a Vixens man just because I don't want to go for Collingwood.
Yeah,
so that's the other great thing. What a recruiting tool for the Vixens.
Oh, well, that's right.
The Melbourne Vixens in the new Super League.
I do like the Vixens' sort of reaction this week. And they actually came out after the game and said, Listen, there's been so much hype about the Collingwood netball team.
Yeah.
We felt like we had to put our stamp on it and say, hang on, this is our town. And I thought, good on you, girls.
Did you see Eddie's already complaining about the GWS netball team? And saying he came out and said
they're getting too much.
It shouldn't have Cola or the Riverine recruiting area, which someone pointed out they don't have either.
No.
But he's furious with them.
So, yes, that's something that will rub him the wrong way on that one. But yeah, no. So you watch most of the. I watch
a fair bit of. Well, it's not surprising I watch a lot of sport.
Pretty much the entire Collingwood Essendon game, Geelong Hawthorn and Melbourne Bulldogs.
Yeah. The
other games and the AFL women's. I watched bits of them, but not the entire full quarters.
Yeah, I watched a fair bit. It's pre-season, so it's hard. The Bulldogs Melbourne game was a really good game.
It was.
That actually seemed like, they actually seemed like it was actually very entertaining to watch. In fact, I found the standard across most of the pre-season pretty good, like better than I remember. But maybe I was just so desperate for it to be back.
Yeah, I think because I watched the Collingwood Essendon game first, of course. And then thought it seems to be a bit more free flowing and less negativity from the game plans. But that continued on with all the games, and I thought I think that's just down to the coaches letting young players go and just saying, look, let's just see if we can kick a winning score.
They'll drag it down.
They'll
eventually.
Sure enough.
But so Melbourne won in the women's and the men's on the weekend. So that's so much winning.
Yeah,
I don't know really how to handle it.
And
I drank twice as much that night in celebration.
Yeah, you know what I enjoyed too about the Melbourne Bulldogs men's game?
Yeah,
is that Melbourne wore the women's jumpers with the red backs.
Well, that's the new alternative.
I know, but it's great that they've taken it from the women's because it was
rather than the white ones, which you
the white ones I hate with a passion. And it's still from the front. It still looks like a Melbourne footy jumper.
I don't know why the AFL even has clash jumpers.
Oh, it's
I can't think of many that really, really clash.
Well, what about the Geelong one, the Geelong T-shirt?
Oh, I've got about 30
we'll get onto that,
emails from people complaining about it. In fact, when I put out the call for questions that said, best question wins a T-shirt, people said, a few people said, I'm worried about asking a question in case it's the Geelong T-shirt. It was terrible.
I can't see them moving too quickly at the Geelong merchandise shop.
Someone said to me, someone tweeted on, not to me, but tweeted, a lot of people complain about the Geelong jumper, but what they don't get is their marketing to millennials, and it will surprise you how much they'll like it. And I wrote back to them, it will surprise me.
Yeah. If you want to buy a Geelong T-shirt,
buy a Geelong T-shirt.
There's got to be better ones than that. Yeah, but let's be glad they had the big G on the front so we knew who they were representing.
Now, Dylan Walton wrote in, did anyone bother to find out what JLT stands for? Dylan,
no good question. I still don't know.
Well, I
don't think anybody in football knows. I heard one of the commentators ask the same question yesterday.
Yeah. I don't know what it stands for. I did look. They do something in insurance or finance. I didn't even go into that level of detail beyond that. Sean wrote in. He's had a good crack. He said, "Is JLT the guy who sang 'Love Is in the Air' or hosted Young Talent Time?" I think it's very close.
Yeah, he's thinking of JPY on Love Is in the Air,
right?
And he's confusing JLT with YTT, which was the acronym for Young Talent Time, hosted by Johnny Young, who is not the John Paul Young who sang Love Is in the Air.
See, I was thinking I at first thought it was about a reference to Tim Allen's son in Home Improvement, but that was JTT, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, the young heartthrob that went on to do nothing. This is my obscure knowledge of celebrity coming to the fore.
Home Improvement wasn't. I was more your Young Talent Time than
that generation.
Yeah.
Heather Finlayson's had a very good crack. She said, "Does JLT stand for Just Light Training?"
That's not bad.
That's probably the most.
That's probably the most accurate.
So I'm going to refer to it now as
the Just Light Training Series.
Yeah. So isn't it ridiculous now how... I mean, it's fine, but the fact it doesn't have a cup or anything...
Yeah,
just sort of nothing.
I reckon it would... I mean, that's why we've probably never heard of JLT, the company, and never will again, is that it would have been a hard sell for the sponsorship.
Yeah, not having a cup in it.
You've got a...
Series rather than cup.
Yeah, it's just a round-robin bunch of practice matches.
Yeah.
If you hold up a cup or trophy or something, it just gives...
But there's nothing the AFL can't or won't sell the rights to. It's like there's tissues and toothpaste and there's everything with AFL on it now. Like you can get whatever. There's fragrances.
They'll be selling the
cologne
air above the MCG scene.
There's
There'll be
cologne.
the air rights.
Who would buy a Collingwood cologne?
I want to smell like I've just got out of prison. You know?
I think the Melbourne one smells of like Alpine Fresh. They're all,
and the Richmond one just smells like bitter tears.
Yeah, it is literally bitter tears. The Essendon one, we don't know what's in it. Oh, we could be here all. We're here all week. Why wouldn't you become a sponsor with champagne comedy like
Try
that?
the veal.
Travis Walsh wrote in, are you declaring Melbourne favourites to win the 2017 flag after beating the reigning premier on Saturday?
Well,
I am.
Yeah, I think so.
I've cancelled my September holidays.
Despite the fact that the Bulldogs only put out half a side and that Melbourne only won by 6 points, I think we're... I think Melbourne... If not,
they didn't have Bond. They didn't have a few. Who did they not have?
Oh, they had a few out. Boyd didn't play. Easton Wood, Picken.
Oh, so just a few.
Just a few sort of young guns. Tom Boyd didn't get a kick.
Well, that's right. He only performs once a year.
Grand finals.
He's Mr. October.
It's what his $1 million is for. And it's been paid back in spades.
Well, if he does that each year, if he wins a grand final each year, even though he's had a terrible season, no one will care.
Yeah, but I think one of the good things to come out of it was that Travis Cloak did a few good things, just enough to get Bulldog supporters' hopes up, only to be dashed by about round 3.
Well, I think he was just like, it seems every player at Collingwood he's just allergic to Nathan Buckley.
Well, that first kick was an absolute beauty.
Oh, the whole thing, when he started kicking straight, I was like, oh, look out. Maybe Luke Beveridge, like, imagine this. Imagine Luke Beveridge just walked up to him on the first day and said, you're doing this when you kick, and that's what's the problem is if you don't do that, if you do this instead, it'll work, and it just fixed overnight. I'd love something like that happen.
Yeah.
Overnight.
They've had, the Rocker brothers, Matthew Lloyd, everyone's had a crack at it.
Just Beveridge goes,
keep your head down and drop the ball a bit lower.
The thing I think, though, is, and a Collingwood supporter pointed this out to me, I can't remember who it was, but said it is a pre-season game. Trevor's always okay when the pressure's not on, so I think there's a lot of truth in there. But you can't extrapolate too much out of the JLT, the Just Light Training Series.
The Just Light Training Series. Although I will say there is already a huge groundswell that GWS are certainties to make the grand final, if not win it.
Yeah. Well,
but that's been the case since.
Well, you give one team all the best talent in the land for several years.
See, I thought I was quoting someone who actually knew over the weekend. I said to my 12-year-old son, I said, the problem is, I said, they've had 50 top 10 draft picks over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And he said, 50 over the last, that means they've had every top 10 draft pick for the last 5 years. I said, actually, now you point that out. Probably they haven't had quite that many. Maybe it's 50 first round picks.
So that's the moment you learn your son is smarter than you.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
Oh, he's 12.
Reese wrote in, is this the last week I will not that I will have not being a disappointed Tiger supporter for a while? Probably Reese.
Probably Reese. They did have an intra-club match the other day, which had the experts who were there, a few of the journalists going, you're looking good, the Tigers.
Yeah, looking really good.
There's nothing wrong with the way they're moving. Even though it's an intra-club match.
Yeah, I like that. Nothing wrong with the way they're moving. They seem to be able to run and walk.
Yeah, and every kick went to a teammate. Even if it was a turnover in the match, it was still technically to a teammate.
They're winning targets at 100% of
so who do they play? The Tigers obviously play this week. Do you know who they play?
Nah, no idea.
I know Carlton are back this week as well, but I only know they're playing Melbourne. But look, in answer to your question, Reece, I think you're. I think your summer of optimism is just about to come to an end.
Well, see, I'm thrilled because Melbourne winning just gave me the first time in a long time where I actually think, while I'm not extrapolating it out to be we're going to win everything, they play Adelaide, Richmond, by the way.
Okay.
While I don't necessarily think it's going to mean we'll be in the premiership, it's nice not to think season over.
Yeah.
Already, which is what I've thought in previous years.
So often in the past, they've put Melbourne up against Hawthorn or Geelong or something in the first round of the NAB Cup, and it's just a horror show.
Well, I mean, we did well they played fine, but it's just nice not to have it all over. Oh, the impact he's already had.
Yeah.
Everything you can't talk about Jordan Lewis now without saying, oh, the impact he's already had.
Even just walking off the bus, he had impact. You know,
That's right.
I thought he
was fine.
He was fine. He didn't dominate. But the one thing about watch his game, he had 25 possessions, most of which were handballs, but every single one hit the target.
Yeah, it's
which
nice
is what
having a player
10 years of Hawthorn will do for you. You know,
it's nice having. Isn't it funny how being able to kick and handball properly seem to be core skills that you need to be good?
Imagine
something
that.
where people only just waking up to.
Imagine that at the highest level. A player can actually kick and handball accurately.
Timothy Byrne said, when told that no one could design a worse jumper than Hawthorn's, did Geelong simply say, hold my beer?
I love that phrase, hold my beer. It's become synonymous for every mistake that's made. It's like, hold my beer while I attempt to jump this car.
I can do this.
Yeah.
Matthew, while I attempt to do a podcast, that's what we did. Matthew Holland said, why are we bothering with the AFL season when it's clearly going to be a North Melbourne versus Melbourne grand final? So true.
Matthew, so true. I mean, admittedly, North, their side looked like a TAC Cup team the other day. It was full of like 16-year-olds.
They still beat Sid.
They beat Sid, but they played pretty good brand of footy. I didn't mind that game.
Well, Brad Scott, master coach. Now, the AFL, you would not believe this, Serge.
No.
The AFL have announced that they announced their 2016 financial accounts. None of the detail. They just have released the top level.
Yeah.
The top line ones. They suffered a net loss of $17.8 million last year.
The AFL lost money.
Yeah, they lost money. How can you lose money?
How can you lose money when schooners are $9.80 each?
It's amazing. Now, what they've blamed, they've blamed the launch of the AFL women's competition.
Oh, it hasn't taken long to point the finger at with the women.
Blame the women.
So it's taken a fortnight. And it's the
AFL women's
chicks' fault.
The women's competition didn't even run last year. It's the women's fault. Is that not? There's not a more AFL thing than to blame the women.
There's not a more Aussie bloke thing than that. That's fantastic.
We were making profits year on year when it was just the men, but the women come along and with all their...
They forced our hand to start the thing.
You know what? It's all their online shopping, they said. Seriously, they're just shameless. They did also mention that the early purchase of Etihad Stadium...
That might have had something to do with it.
Had a bit to do with it too. But they did mention the AFL women's competition in there too, because they're paying them so much.
Yeah. Well, as I said last week, that poor girl from Collingwood got suspended for 2 weeks. It cost her $30,
That's right.
in wages.
So they said, but I think buying Etihad Stadium was a big chunk of it. But then also here it announced that of the AFL's 11 executives, including the CEO, they pocketed a combined $8.08 million last year. That's an average of 734,000 and change, basically. That's the average that they got.
Young Gill gets 1.5 or 1.7 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, he's the CEO.
So you take that out.
So there's still another 10 execs.
They're getting good money.
They're on 600 or 700. What do the other 10 do?
Well, they've got everything from, Mark Evans, the football operations manager. They've got Andrew Dillon's there to legal. Yeah, so they've got a bunch of different...
And you have a sponsorship guy. There'll be one in charge of the broadcast.
They've got a finance CFO. So, you spread it out.
But it's still good money if you can get it.
Look, I'm in two minds about this. I think all exec pay across everything is mad. Like, you just can't... across all business, it's mad.
I think it's mad.
And I don't think the AFL is any more mad than... I think it's probably slightly less mad. The problem is, you read the history of the AFL, when they've had amateur executives in there back in the 70s earlier, they did almost run it into the ground several times. It's walking the fine balance between you want people who are okay as opposed to... Well, it is
a big business. I mean, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars every year. So, you don't put in your junior kid accountant, to hide. But it's still pretty good money if you can get it.
What I'm interested in is this a one-off? Because, is this going to be a one-off loss because of Etihad and that? And then they didn't sort of give any guidance that they're on track to just, this will be a one-off and then they rebound with the new TV deals. And
Well, you'd hope so. You hope it's not just going to be like the federal budget. It's just going to keep ballooning every year. You know?
I mean, who would have thought that Etihad Stadium would end up losing someone money? No surprise
almost
there.
surprising that he had making money.
Now, something happened over the weekend, though.
Oh yeah, I became aware of this on Friday night, and
you being our technology expert on the podcast.
Yeah, Mr. IT just called me. The thing and this has never affected me because I've never done this sort of thing because I actually like watching my sport on a big screen TV rather than something minute. But what happened, and it's caused an outcry started Friday night. AFL fans who downloaded the AFL app and paid for a season pass, if they were not a Telstra customer, they tried to watch the first pre-season game, the Collingwood Essendon, on their iPad or their Microsoft Surface or on their laptop, and discovered that the screen size was only the size of an iPhone.
Yeah.
And
so it was a tiny little screen in the middle
7 inches. Which surprised a lot of people.
Which is always disappointing.
It's always. It's so often when I know people have been promised 10 inches and they've only got 7. It's always a hell of a shock.
Why are they using inches too? All the media said inches. I'm like, we're in Australia.
And they said 7. I'm thinking, my phone's not 7 inches
long.
I don't get that.
Yours is not.
10 at least. Now, what's happened is it's to do with the new broadcast agreement between Telstra and the AFL, in that they're not allowed to show the live games in a bigger picture.
No, they've limited it to the size of an iPhone or a mobile phone. So even if you watch it on your iPad, that's how small it's going to be, no matter what you do. And this is all so the only way you'll be able to watch, which last year you could.
You could, yes.
Last year wasn't an issue.
That's why people were so upset.
So there's 2 things that they've done here. One, they've done a deal as part of the broadcast agreement. So Foxtel now are the only ones that, if you have Foxtel Go or own Foxtel, you'll be able to show the full-size iPad screen on yours, but you're paying extra.
Yeah.
So all those people, so that's what they've done. So they've limited and made the AFL app basically inferior so that people will be forced to buy Foxtel. So the AFL's agreed to this. So one, there's a whole bunch of stupidity around that for the AFL where every sport, NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, English Premier League, everything, they're all going on to providing really good streaming ability for...
They've always been behind the 8 ball here.
Well, they had it here. They actually had it, and they've actually gone backwards for the next 6 years, which is how long So this isn't a 1 year, and then this is for 6 years. But what more is, if you're like me, now I've got Foxtel, so that's fine, but I also bought the app, the AFL app, because I often use it a lot, and I'm often out, and I often be at a dinner party, and rather than talk to people, I'll get out the phone to watch the game.
Naturally.
Which people love.
Yeah.
And so I
good at weddings too.
Great at weddings.
Because you just put
kids' recitals.
You put just little earphones in, you get the commentary and everything.
And
kids' concerts, that's a terrific one.
So anyway, I just renewed. Mine had automatically renewed. I hadn't read anything about this. I'd renew, and then it's a tiny little thing in the T's and C's, which no one reads those T's and C's, because it would take you a year to read them if you could understand the legalese in them. But and so all these people have rebought the Telstra app, the Telstra AFL app, and had no heads up that something like this significant had changed. So you're paying, and there's been a pay increase, a price increase on this recently too. So you're paying more for an inferior thing, and then Telstra have just gone, and AFL, oh, bad luck, that's the thing. And I'm like, well, hang on, you've not told people properly. You can argue it's in the TOC, but in the T's and C's, but you have really just. This is just screwing people over.
Exactly, and this is the thing that I quite understand people being angry about, is that the AFL, it hasn't even occurred to them that people might have this reaction to it. But if they'd come out and said...
It's the lack of caring about it.
Yeah, they don't care, and they didn't tell anyone, and they act all surprised when people are upset about it. And you would think one of those 10 executives who are on $734,000 a year may have said, look... Nobody's going to like this, but how can we minimise the
you know what, they could have at
backlash.
Least told everyone before all the subscriptions renewed.
They could have done that, but then
and
the
said,
subscriptions wouldn't have got renewed.
And I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but I was going to send an email through and say, can I cancel this subscription? because I want to see what they do. I'd be happy if anyone tells me if they've tried that, because basically I don't want it if it's like this is for a lot of people this is not what they want. Now there are workarounds. People say, oh, you can use a Chromecast or various things to display it on a big screen or that. But it's like
I just want to press play.
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole point of paying. It's almost $100 a year. So like you're paying that much, you should be getting what you want now. So the fact that they've even just done this deal, like Fox still get enough. Like that. It's madness.
Yeah, and look. I know the NBA is a massive international sporting organisation that turns over probably 10 times the amount of money the AFL does.
Yeah,
but their streaming service is brilliant. It works instantly, and if you ever have a problem, you actually email them, and they come back to you within a minute. Even though we're sitting in Melbourne and they're in the USA.
I used the AFL one all last year.
Yeah,
and it worked fine. Like I never had a problem with it. Like occasionally there'd be a coverage issue or something if I was somewhere and just the coverage wasn't great. But overall, and I've got all the other streaming ones for every other sport. And they all work. It worked no worse than it. Like some of its functionality and navigation's not as good, but it worked perfectly fine. So this isn't not a, they're just not doing a good job. This is an active decision to make a service less good, to make it inferior, and to make it inferior for the next 6 years. For the people who have forked out their hard earned, who are the most hardcore footy supporters. Yeah. That's the other thing. This is like screwing over.
These aren't your fly-by-night, I don't mind watching it occasionally.
It's the most AFL move that the AFL have possibly ever done, which is let's screw over
hardcore
footy fans who are giving us money regularly. And these are people who I would guarantee you, almost everyone that's got streaming through the AFL app and have paid $89.99, or there's different prices depending on your sign up, and I think there's going to be, someone said there's going to be another pay increase, but whatever. So I looked, it was $89.99. So these are people who I bet you have bought tickets, memberships, scarves, jumpers
for their kids,
done stuff with sponsors to
turn up to family
go
days,
to Auskicks, like all this stuff. Probably a lot of them have bought Foxtel that can afford to have Foxtel. This is the thing. The AFL think everyone's got Foxtel. Everyone can just afford Foxtel. They're just trying to force everyone to get Foxtel. Foxtel's a fortune. Like the only reason I have Foxtel is for AFL.
Yeah, sport. That's the only reason I've got it. There's nothing else I watch on. If I could just buy it direct
from the AFL to stream, I would give like whatever would be the comparison, like you do with Netflix, because the amount of stuff on Foxtel that you don't need, and is on other. So
when was the last time you watched Ice Road Truckers?
Oh,
last night. Yeah,
I've got it on now in the background, and get Serge to do a live prediction on how the episode will end.
See, that just to finish on this is one of the classic reasons why people turn and hate the AFL.
Yeah.
Not only have they done the whole thing as you just described, but the fact that they didn't tell anyone because they knew if we tell people in advance, they won't subscribe.
Yeah.
Let's just wait until they've all subscribed and then they can be upset and whinge about it. Too late, we've already got your dough.
And then silence. All I'm aware of, and I'm happy to be correct if someone can point me, but I did a big Google search before to find it. All I can find, the AFL's only response to this, which has been in their big issue, is a standardised tweet that just says, this is due to the live streaming broadcast agreement, and then they say in it, new features to come, which to me from the AFL, if a new feature that so far their first new feature is smaller screen, it sounds more like a threat when the AFL say new features to come.
I'm pretty sure one of the new features isn't going to be a larger screen,
Now, Nick C wrote, is the AFL's next multimedia platform going to be released on the Commodore 64?
With Windows 73 just installed.
Frank wrote in, will the podcast be in 8-bit format, our podcast, to coincide with the new advancements in the AFL Live Pass? It will be on those cartridges, the 8-bit cartridges used to...
You can get them on a floppy disk.
Yeah. That's right. That's how we'll start. Actually, you can... We'll send you out a cassette with this podcast on,
with a mixtape on the back.
If you write with a self-addressed envelope to PO Box 574 Northcote, we will send you a cassette.
In your
asterisk, we will not actually send you a cassette.
Just on your stamped self-addressed envelope. Just going back a few years, it's reminded me. When I used to work on Sale of the Century, they'd occasionally have a promotion for if you wanted to be a contestant. I'd say, if you're going to be a contestant, send a stamped self-addressed envelope to Sale of the Century contestant, Post Office Box 109 in your capital city.
Yeah.
And we used to get envelopes addressed to in your capital city. And they go straight in the bins and go, anyone who's done that ain't smart enough to get on Sale of the Century.
Oh, my God. No wonder the world's how it is. Tim Fox wrote in, is the AFL's new screen size an attempt to make players smaller to reduce congestion?
Oh, I'm liking that. Tim, your clubhouse leader at this stage.
Spot on, Tim. Gordon Anderson wrote, if we promise to hold our iPads with our arms fully outstretched, will the AFL let us keep full screen streaming? Ryan Graham asks a good question. Can I have your Foxtel Go password?
Oh, there you go.
Well, Serge is happy to give his out.
Yeah.
It'd be funny when a Foxtel with like 30 people all at once try and go onto your stream.
Well, what I have found is when you occasionally flick onto World Movies and there's an R-rated movie and it asks for your PIN number, and who knows their Foxtel PIN number? No. 1, 2, 3, 4 always works.
Oh, there you are, kids.
There, kids, if you want to watch R-rated on World Movies, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Do you know what? Kids are going, R-rated?
Yeah.
I've got access to the internet. The stuff I can dig up in 2 seconds
I've already downloaded
your
stuff, Lady Chatterley's Lover. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's right.
I can do better than that.
That shows you the difference in generations.
Yeah.
Like, watching a blue movie on Saturday night on SBS is no longer
I
it once was.
A dodgy PIN number like that to watch Alvin Purple is...
They've already hacked it. They don't even know what you're talking about. They're like, seriously, Serge, you just go into the code.
Yeah, this is how you do it.
Liam O'Brien wrote, from this week, what epitomises the 1980s more, a Midnight Oil World Tour or the AFL Live Pass coverage? It is a bit Back to the Future. Now, talking of NBA and Live Pass and how well that's all going, but also talking of watching really small sporting events, difficult to see, apparently Aussie basketball bosses have gone over to see the NBA, to talk to the NBA, about trying to get them to play an NBA match, at the MCG.
Look, I couldn't believe it when I read this yesterday. Everyone, we all know if they played an NBA match or a series of them in Australia, it would be massive.
Oh, it'd be amazing.
It would be absolutely massive. Now, we also understand that by putting them in your standard basketball arena, in Melbourne
say
or
High
Sydney,
Sense in Melbourne, something like that.
It's not going to work in a financial sense. So there's got to be a bit of a compromise. But the MCG, you sitting in the grandstand and
it's in top of the southern stand looking at this basketball court in the middle.
It's hard enough watching a game of footy, let alone you're 120 metres from the...
It would be ridiculous.
Absolutely absurd.
The thing is that it would still sell out.
Yeah.
I mean, if that many people went to see the boxing at Adelaide Oval, they'll easily go to see the basketball.
Yeah, but you've got to be up close. And
well, they should do it. You know where they should do it? Amy Park in Melbourne's an example.
That would probably
Sydney
work there.
Sydney Football Stadium in Sydney,
because the playing surface is
at least rectangle. You need at least a rectangle stadium. But MCG, even if you're in the stands, the proper stands, but at the front of the proper footy stands or cricket stands, you're still a mile away from the court.
You're still 50, 60 metres away from the court.
Yeah.
And, I guess on the other hand, if you did put a basketball court in the middle of the MCG, by covering the playing surface with chairs, you could probably fit 130,000 people there. It'd be just... But nobody wants to go to watch basketball at the MCG.
They will, though. They will.
I think they've got to think this through a bit better. I mean, I understand that, as I said, you can't play it at High Sense Arena or the Melbourne State Netball Centre or something where the Melbourne United play, because
Amy Park would be
Amy Park would work, and they could do 2 or 3 matches there, 3 or 4 nights even. But MCG, I can't see it.
Got to admit, you would be so far back. Now, continuing on the NBA delivered some gold. We had this week Kyrie Irving, who plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah. Who is Australian, by the way.
Well, he doesn't play for Australia, though. He plays for the US.
But he was born and raised in Melbourne, I think.
Yeah, well, thanks for nothing, Kyrie.
I think for a couple of months when he was a toddler.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
That's enough for us to call him an
if you listen
Aussie
to this, it's
basketballer.
obvious he wasn't educated in Australia, and it's very obvious he was educated in America. He's come out this week and claimed that he believes fully, and he was not joking, that the Earth is flat.
Right.
So he came out in this thing and said basically that the Earth is flat. He was in a podcast. The Earth is flat. Everyone else is lying to you. It's really clear if you study it that the Earth is flat.
Right. So there is the potential just to fall off the edge.
Yeah.
Sail off the edge.
That's right. Now, he was then on it talking to someone from ESPN, and he was sort of quizzed about, because there's been a big reaction to this,
Yeah,
right?
Kyrie Irving says the Earth is flat.
Yeah, and come back and said, no, do you really think that? And he said that, yes, he doubled down on that and said he totally believes that it's flat. He said, I think people should do their own research, man. Whenever anyone's trying to sell you on a theory and they say man at the end of their statement, you instantly start to go, hang on.
Yeah, you're from back to the 60s.
What have you been smoking?
Or dude,
He said, hopefully they'll either, this is if you do your own research, man, hopefully they'll either back my belief or they'll throw it in the water. This is the water that spills off the side of the earth.
I was about to say, the water before it falls off.
I think it's interesting for people to find out on their own. I've seen a lot of things that my educational system has said that was real that turns out to be completely fake. I don't mind going against the grains in terms of my thoughts.
And then he went on to NBC Sports. That was ESPN.
Yeah.
And then he's gone on to NBC, and he hasn't backed down.
No, he says, no, I don't believe the Earth is round. I think, and he was asked why he thinks it is. I think it's from just a not very scientific way, he said. But the way I travel and how I get around, and also the tons and tons of research that supports that theory, I think you should go look it up. Before I tell you, I think you should go look it up.
So there's tons and tons of research. You should go look it up. I like the way it's the way I travel.
Yeah.
So in his private jet.
Hello, time zones, Kyrie, when you're travelling across. It's just mad. This is this new thing.
Where does the moon go?
This is this new thing, though, where people are they just believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
And they do it on all sides. Like this idea that it's just, we see it with global warming.
Yeah.
People go, I don't trust, or I just don't want to believe the science, I don't. But then other people do it too. They do it on vaccinations. I just don't want to believe it. They do it on GMOs. They do it on a whole bunch of things. It's like they they pick the science that suits them.
Yeah. And their belief system just automatically is justifiable and cuts out, in some topics, just all scientific research and known facts.
Do you think it's amazing too that people seem to no longer care about looking completely stupid? It's like the world's just like, it's like everyone who most people see as stupid have gone, right, well, if we get in a big enough group together, there's safety in numbers.
Yes. Yeah, we'll just magnify the stupidity.
Yeah, we can just be stupid together and, we'll all reinforce our own stupid beliefs.
How will Kyrie Irving go at the MCG, do you think? How will he get here?
You'll notice the surface is a bit curved. No, and that might flip him.
Yeah.
Like ups up. No, that's actually for drainage.
But when he turns up and goes into a round stadium to play basketball,
the world is flat. It's just so... You couldn't make this up. I keep waiting for him to come out in like a few months and go...
Yeah.
I was just
gagging. Gotcha.
Winding the press up because it's just. Now, Sean's written in though with a very good question. Shane Warne and Kyrie Irving going to join forces to write a book about when aliens ruled the flat Earth. Now,
Not just the Earth.
You might remember Warnie's theory of evolution involves aliens,
which he mentioned on the Jungle Show last year.
That's amazing too.
What, the Jungle Show?
Oh, yeah, well that is too, but. The fact that it just shows you that athletes don't focus on their education. They're sort of put in that channel of off you go to. Because Kyrie Irving only played like 10 games of college basketball.
Yeah.
So he didn't bother. He was one of the ones that didn't bother with the full
sort of
college education.
Went from high school straight to the NBA.
Although I would say I wouldn't consider, not to be elitist, I don't actually consider knowing the earth is round a uni degree required level of knowledge. I more equate it with, grade 3.
Yeah. And I like the fact, in Sean's question, suggesting that Warnie and Kyrie Irving join forces to write a book. I would suggest perhaps they read a book before they start trying to write one.
Well, this is the thing. You don't need to do that anymore.
Can you imagine Warnie and Kyrie sitting there at the computer?
Once they get going on the theories.
Come on, Warnie, you want to start? Yeah.
My favourite is inherent in Kyrie's comments is that basically the rest of us are chumps. having done our research. Like that's his sort of thing.
It's like Scientologists.
Yeah.
You haven't seen the light. You're all idiots. We're the only ones who know. It's an elite club, and we'd love to have you in there, but you just refuse using logic and facts.
It's so good. Now, amazingly, this week, one, did you know that there's been cricket on? The lack of interest in the Sri Lanka-Australia
I was flabbergasted to discover on Friday night at about 7 o'clock that there was actually a game at the MCG on Friday night.
Yeah.
And an Australian international game.
Yeah, and there was one last night in Geelong.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look,
I don't know what the people of Geelong have done to Cricket Australia, but that's what they gave them.
I did read this morning that it was the smallest crowd to watch a sporting event at Cardinia Park since like the early 90s.
Yeah, well, I don't blame the people of Geelong. It was a horrible day yesterday. Why would you turn out for that?
This is Australia-Sri Lanka T20 game.
But also, like, this is the thing.
Aren't the real Australians over there in India?
Well, that's one. It's not the full side, but two, it's just another point. It's just what cricket keep doing. It's just another pointless. Cricket has the equivalent year round of pre-season games just happening.
Yeah,
but it's not actually a pre-season. It's their actual,
and it's just another ploy to drag cash out of the public. I reckon that this T20 series that's just happened and nobody's noticed.
Yeah.
It's the Cricket Australia version of the small screen from the AFL. I mean, it's just
they must only make money out of the TV rights back to India and Sri Lanka.
There's no question.
Because no one else would give her... No.
But the money, you're right, that's where the money would come from the TV rights on the subcontinent. Because regardless, even if Indian cricket fans who are mad about their cricket in India... even if they had not the slightest interest in Australia v Sri Lanka being played at Geelong, there would still be enough millions of them watching for it to justify the whole thing happening.
They watch everything. They're massively into it. So talking of India, though, Mitchell Starc has made a call to sacrifice a $1 million payday, so he's forgone $1 million to not play in the Indian Premier League and instead put all his energy into winning the tests in India. It's a huge call from him. He was previously basically all signed up to play for the Royal Challengers in Bangalore and said, no, I'm not going to go now. Instead, I'm going to focus on winning for Australia. Is this what a national hero?
Oh, what a great guy. But all this tells me is that how much do they get paid to play in the Indian Premier League? I know it's always a staggering
Maxwell
amount.
Made... I looked at this figure the other day.
700?
Yeah, it was 600,000 and change.
Yeah.
For 2 months' work. Glenn Maxwell.
Yeah, what, a dozen games at that?
He can't barely break into the Victorian side. I mean, the money is that's the thing now. A lot of people don't get how much now India is to cricket what America is to baseball.
Oh, no question.
That's where the money. That's where the money is. It's where the best leagues are. It's where everything else just pales in comparison.
Yeah. And that's what somebody high up in Australian cricket said recently. One of their concerns is that while they're trying to encourage good young players to come through the system, there's plenty of them who go, look, I don't care if I never get a baggy green or play Test cricket for Australia. I just want to get to that level where I can make as much money. I can make $500,000 a year playing in India. I can make another $500,000 playing here. And guys you've never even heard of will make a staggering amounts of money.
Well, that's like a couple of the West Indies players.
And there's nothing wrong with people making money, but it's changed the game considerably.
But there's a bunch of people, West Indies, who just, all they do is play T20 now. They don't even try and play anything else, really.
Oh, exactly.
And they just go, they do the Big Bash League here, they do the IPL, they play in England, they just go around the circuit and then they take some time off and then they do it again.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it's great.
Might go back.
But anyway, Mitchell Starc, what a hero.
We might go and have a back to the nets after this podcast.
Now, Mitchell Starc, one thing is he's foregone $1 million. I would suggest he could ask Sonny Bill Williams or Anthony Mundine for a loan. Well, not even a loan. They seem to hand over.
Are they brothers?
Well, no, I don't know that you can. Apparently, they do that because being Muslims don't believe in borrowing money with interest and things like that.
Right.
So that's why they do it. So maybe if he converts, you can ask.
Well, he could. I mean,
it's a lot of energy to go to.
Yeah, do you really want to bother? But, good on Mitchell Starc. I'll tell you what, he'll regret it if we lose the series 3-0 and he doesn't get a wicket. He'll go, jeez, I should have taken the mill.
Well, we are going to lose.
Yeah, I know.
Even with Starc not playing that, he's going to have to.
No, I don't know. I think he's losing the plot, quite frankly. I'd have taken the money and played both.
And taken the money and run.
Yeah.
These are getting to some of our listener questions. Trumputin.
Why is Rasputin?
Why is this T20 cricket game at Cardinia Park even on? Didn't footy season start 2 weeks ago? Well, I think summing up everyone's feelings at the moment.
There's no question. But, I didn't even watch it, but I would have thought...
I watched bits of it, and
I would have thought the goalposts would have been up at Cardinia Park by now.
I think that's a problem. That's why Geelong are in such trouble this year, because they can't train on their own ground because of pointless cricket
and they
game.
have to dress like cricketers.
See, Geelong at the moment are trying to get an A-League side. They're doing a big push for that. And I read someone saying, such, not a very big crowd, not a good sign for their A-League expansion team push. And I'm like, what?
What's that got to do with it?
You put on rubbish sport anywhere, nobody's going to that. I don't know what the MCG crowd was. Do you know what the MCG
Friday
crowd
night?
was?
No, it wasn't massive though.
Would have been no one.
No, it's probably 20,000.
I watched a little bit of it, but even that, there's other stuff on.
Collingwood going to get an A-League team? It'd be nice to see. That would take it up.
They had one. Remember them in Carlton had teams?
Oh, so that'd take it up to 4 sports we could watch
Collingwood be able to lose over more. They're putting him for a Quidditch team. Jimmy Fabs, spelled F-A-Y-B-Z. Fabs or Fabs. Good on you, Jimmy. He asked with Darcy Vesico, who's the sort of the small forward for Carlton in the women's team. Yeah. He's very good. If Vesico set to win the AFL women's leading goal scorer, how long before she's traded to Adelaide? They don't do that as much anymore.
No, the Carlton are a bit wary of handing over their very good small forwards to Adelaide.
Well, I think Jimmy's identified it, but what Carlton have started to actually do is identify that trading away your best players is not always a good idea.
Yeah, they paid the price for that.
To do the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, don't they every time? Every time Eddie Betts does well.
I'll tell you what, Zach Toohey looked pretty good too, playing for Geelong the other night.
Not in that
Henderson,
T-shirt, he didn't. Cass Lowry wrote in, how many more sports can Collingwood be bad at?
Cass, you're just reflecting what we were just talking about.
It's infinite, really. I think they can bring their brand of...
Do Collingwood still have a team in the cricket, in the Premier Cricket?
Not aligned, I don't think.
No, it's not aligned with the footy club.
They've got so they've just really got the women's, the men's, the AFL, netball. And then the netball now.
Yeah. Oh, look, we can just encourage expansion.
Do you know what they did, which was just overcompensating a fair bit on the coverage of the Collingwood netball game against the Vixens? Every 5 minutes, they kept cutting to Eddie Maguire to prove he was there, and because it was hosted by Channel 9, the coverage was on Channel 9, and they kept referencing, there's the president there, and then every time they cut, he was cheering again. You're like, I mean, I actually think Eddie's excuse for missing the Collingwood women's opening game, and it was fair. They changed, the AFL changed the date of that, and he had made a commitment. He's still
got a job to do.
Yeah, so you could argue, well, he shouldn't be so conflicted, but that's another. But actually, I think it was a fair thing of why he missed that first one. But boys, he's still paying for it anyway.
he's got to go to the netball every week.
Well, it was more. Good on him for going and that, but it was more just the way that they kept cutting to him. So he kept having to they over-egged proving he was there.
And Ed being such a pro, he would have noticed every time the red light on the camera pointing, he goes, geez, I'm going to have to look like I'm excited again. But he wouldn't have missed a beat, and he didn't.
No, and it was a good game, actually. It was the new competition where in the netball, what they've done is this new competition they've launched, they've just booted out the New Zealand sides. Because remember we had that
That's always a good move. And that's what...
Australia
should, and New Zealand are in netball are your traditional rivals.
Well,
in every World Cup, it ends up Australia and New Zealand in the final.
Well, this is what they found the problem was. In the previous netball, the Trans-Tasman Cup that they had, what it basically worked out to was, I think it was like 6 Australian teams and 5 New Zealand or similar. Now, New Zealand don't have the depth, so a lot of those teams weren't that good. But it also meant at the top level, there were a lot of Australian netballs that couldn't get a game because there was less netball teams.
Sure.
So what they've finally, and they also found it was helping New Zealand out, but not helping. So Australia were getting less opportunities at the highest level. Australians were, but New Zealand were actually getting more, and it was helping them and hurting us.
We don't want that.
So they made a decision, and I'm fine with that because if New Zealand wanted to be part of Australia, they had their chance. They had their chance to join.
Their chance.
They
said
no. They could have. They said no at Federation. They, if they want to, they coast off our defence.
They've spent 200 years regretting that one decision. Well, it's too late now.
Too late.
Too late now.
They had their chance.
Yeah, stick with your flightless bird and be done with it.
So anyway, that was. But I think the new netball's a lot better.
I actually really like netball. I reckon it is just a cracking game. It's played at the top level. I mean, played at the top level. I mean, don't care about. I mean, it's like any suburban sport is pretty ordinary. Yeah. But there are some sports that
you see some
at the top level
playing, it's rubbish.
Are boring. But netball, good game.
Yeah,
good game. But I stress, a Vixens man.
Oh, we both are. Yeah. Jackson Landy wrote in. Was Australia being robbed against Italy in the 2006 World Cup the greatest injustice of the modern era? That was when Lucas Neal got a red card, which was not a red card. It wasn't even a foul. You know what, Jackson? You're absolutely right. It was one of the greatest travesties. I'm glad you're bringing this up over 10 years later, but I'm still bitter about
That's what I was going to say.
We would have won the World Cup.
Jackson has been bitter and angry about this for 11 years.
To be bitter.
And that's and good on him for carrying it.
So I'm writing a book and I've got a section in about this. And as I was reading it again, I got angry again.
Did you?
And then that was a few weeks ago. And then Jackson's picked the saw again, and I'm angry again.
So I'm on.
This is why I refuse. I thought actually I was so angry with Italy after that game.
Yeah.
And this is where we were knocked out of the World Cup because Italy pretended to go down.
You stopped drinking Prosecco after that.
I actually thought, you know what? I'm not going to eat Italian food. And then I thought, well, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to punish myself. So I've kept the pizza up, but I eat it and I'm disgusted by it.
You eat it with irony. Yeah. I'm just glad. Jackson is, other than ex-girlfriends, who carries a grudge for 11 years?
I still get upset about, Jim Stein's crossing the mark.
Yeah.
Like there's 101. Did you see Ricky Nixon came out admitting in 2000 he basically cheated the salary cap?
I didn't see that.
To keep Hurd and Lloyd at Essendon in the year 2000 when they went on to beat Melbourne in the
grand final.
And I thought, well, thanks Ricky.
Good on you.
AFL, do the right thing.
Good on you, chicken.
Award the premiership to the team that wasn't cheating on the salary cap.
Yeah.
So technically we won the 2000 grand final.
Admittedly, they won by about 12 goals.
Doesn't matter. They were salary cap cheating. Let's go out and get drunk.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Jake Moon wrote in, last year, I celebrated my first year's wedding anniversary, started a new job, and found out my wife was pregnant. I like when people say they found out their wife was pregnant, like it was a
shock.
And the wife was keeping it a secret. Yeah. Like they hiring a private investigator.
How did that happen?
Is it bad that my crowning achievement of 2016 was having my question read out on your podcast?
No, it's not, Jake.
I don't think it is.
And now...
But I imagine your wife feels very differently about this.
And now you can point out to your wife that your crowning achievement of 2017 is having that question read out on the podcast.
Right. I had someone in my Facebook comments say that said, I want to come to your Dane Swan interview. I want to buy a ticket to that, but it's the night of my wedding.
Not his anniversary, no. His actual wedding.
And he copied his wife in and said, I'm guessing we can't go to this. And she wrote something quite funny back, I can't remember, but she said something about, I think Titus will understand or something, which I wrote back, no, I won't.
No, and given the fact they've probably, booked another venue and 100 people.
Yeah, no, that's right.
But
if she'd actually
said to him, I tell you what, we'll move the wedding. We'll go see Titus and
Talk to
Swanee.
Dane Swan.
She's a keeper.
Oh, anyway, I offered. Then I said, "Well, why don't after the show, Dane and I rock around to your wedding?"
Oh, I'd love that.
Anyway, radio silence.
Oh, no. You've taken it too far.
They're like, we don't know you. We're happy to joke around on Facebook with
Joke's
you. But
a
you've
joke,
kind of gone, it's that awkward moment between social media friendship
And stalking.
And real, like, oh, let's catch up for a drink.
I don't think so. No. But good luck on your wedding.
Now, this last question's directed right at you, Serge.
All right.
Victor Laws wrote, did Serge get the broken toe cleaning the pool excuse from the Stevie J book of made-up injury excuses?
Well, look, I know I've said it, but it was true in my case. But the Stevie J, it's a good question. He recently, when he
broke his thumb.
He broke his thumb, and I think what I found was great. Tore ligaments in his hand.
He's had to have an operation to fix it.
Reaching for his phone in his backpack. But he's also had a few other goodies over the years. Stevie J, I think he went through a plate glass window.
Yeah.
And he also was hurdling, you know those little sort of low wooden fence things you see at the beach. He was trying to hurdle it when he was pissed out of his brain one night. Yeah. Broke his foot. So he's had a pretty good track record in the stupid injuries.
Being drunk escalates your chances of being injured by a fair margin.
You think? You know? But
were you drunk while you were cleaning the pool?
Well, it was around 9 a.m, so there's every chance.
How did you actually do it?
You know the fence, the glass fence, which you have to have by law.
Oh, because of the nanny state, because they're not allowed to drown kids anymore.
I only put it up before the summer.
Oh, did you?
So I was forced to by the council.
Were you one of those guys? You waited?
Well, I figured,
come get me, council.
If nobody can see it from the street,
well, you only lost two kids.
Yeah, I lost 2 kids, and you
got 2 more.
Insurance covers that. No, I hit it on the bottom of the wall. Because the glass walls, they don't reach all the way to the ground. There's about a 2-inch,
So do you often just, are you like a bird, you just walk into the glass door?
Not anymore. Not anymore. I've torn down that wall. Mr. Gorbachev, I've torn it down. And I'll take my chances on fines from the council and every kid in the neighbourhood.
How is your toe now? Are you back?
It's still a bit swollen, but it's pretty much right now.
I've been impressed how, even with this broken toe, you've still managed to turn up for the podcast each week.
Yeah, well.
That just shows your dedication.
Yeah, Uber. Yeah.
the chauffeur. Now, winner of the T-shirt, you had a favourite?
Oh, look, my favourite I still think is Tim Fox.
Oh, Foxy.
Foxy. Time for you, Foxy, to get a subscription. But in the meantime, we're going to give you a T-shirt. His question again, is the AFL's new screen size an attempt to make players smaller to reduce congestion? So he's hit about 3 marks there.
I would not put that by the AFL to think that might actually work. So that's our last question of the week. So once again, thank you to our supporters. You are making this happen. If you're not a supporter yet, go to TitusO'Reilly.com, become a supporter. I'd also love if people get the time to go on and rate us on iTunes or leave a comment.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't get a comment every week or so, we get very down, don't we?
Yeah, we need external. Insecure. We have to drink even.
No one more than us need external validation.
Hey, and just a reminder: this Thursday's podcast, we've got a special guest, Angela Pipos, who has written a book called "Breaking the Mold" about sexism in Australian sport.
And as white men, I'm keen to ask explain to her all about that.
Yeah. We'll know.
I'm going to be mansplaining all day to her on that podcast.
Absolutely. And I want to hear her reaction.
Her book's a cracker, and it's actually got a lot of, it fits in a lot of those stories of her career and things she's run up against. Is both the tragic comedy is actually quite funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of depressing at the same time, but it's actually very funny.
It's all coming out at a good time now, but the AFL women's footy.
Now that we've fixed everything.
I am going to ask her how she feels about the AFL blaming women's footy for their loss of
losing money.
18 million last year.
All right, well, we'll see you Thursday, and thank you for everyone that's sending questions very much. We'll see you then.